At a briefing last week, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer announced he was adding 4 Skype seats to the room, calling on local reporters around the country who would not ordinarily be able to participate. This week it became a reality, and some of it was surreal. On its face, it's a decent idea. Let local reporters in on the action.
Well, Mike Shannon, this was the first time reporters from outside the White House press corps were allowed to ask a question at one of these briefings.
Kim Kalunian of WPRI in Rhode Island asked about the president's threat to punish cities that continue to offer sanctuary to undocumented immigrants.
What I'm wondering is how soon we can expect to see this list, and how soon should cities like Providence expect to see their federal funding cut?
Good question. But unlike the rest of the reporters in the room, Kim didn't get much wiggle room.
And while I would have liked to ask a follow-up question to White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer's answer, he quickly said thank you and moved on.
But by the time we got to the third Skype question, the cuckoo clock was chiming.
Commander Spicer, it's a pleasure. Thanks for your service to America and thanks for the opportunity. Can you tell the Forest Service to start logging our forests aggressively again to provide jobs for Americans, wealth for the Treasury, and not spend $3.5 billion a year fighting forest fires?
These pro-Trump fringe media Skypers were interspersed with the usual tough stuff from the White House press corps.
How does the president plan to get Chuck Schumer on board with his pick for the Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch, when he has referred to him as a clown?
Then again, the press corps can come up with its share of cringers, too.
Is President Obama being invited to any of the Black History Month celebrations?
I like my own sidecast here. What can I say?
Inquiring minds want to know, Emily.
Yeah. That was the very first question, that question about Obama being invited to the White House Black History. Give me a break. But this whole thing about the Skype is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think I think I would rotate the seats. I think he's picked 4 people, and they're going to be sort of in on it for the year. Local reporters, Kim Kalunian asked a very reasonable question. One of the guy asked to read, but he's got these 2 other people from these fringe radio, Lars Larson and somebody else, and then you get this nutty kind of stuff, and it takes up valuable time. It's like, come on.
I think it's a very smart strategy on behalf of the administration because you're essentially guaranteeing that you're going to have a slot on local television. I expect that as we go along, we're going to start to see many more reporters from Ohio and Michigan and the sort of states where the Trump administration will be wanting to advance its message. In a sense, I feel like this is, in theory, a good idea in the same way that social media is, in theory, a good idea. And that democratization of media has many positive qualities. But it also is part of a larger trend towards turning the briefing room into essentially a place for conservative performative display. I mean, in Spicer's first press conference, his early questions went to the One America Network and to the Christian Broadcasting Network and other friendly sources of questions.
Or Ingram's thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. LifeZette or whatever that is called. And to be bringing in, this conservative talk radio person, but also a publisher of Kentucky small newspapers who had endorsed Donald Trump.
I know.
It's really, today, Milo Yiannopoulos, said that he was going to show up at today's briefing. He ended up not doing so. But to the extent that the briefings serve any purpose, it is to have one environment where serious journalists can ask serious questions and have some sort of exchange.
But that's just the thing. It doesn't serve that purpose. By virtue of the shift I work, I come into work, and shortly after I arrive, the briefing is on every day. So I bet I watch it more than everyone here combined. And you can thank me later for doing it so you don't have to be.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. It is a complete waste of oxygen. Complete waste. There's almost never any news. You can learn, usually what you learn is that the White House press secretary, depending on, no matter who it is really, doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. And their efforts to tap dance around that fact can be amusing. But there's no news value in these. And the fact that the room is continually packed with people trying to be involved in it is kind of pathetic. By the way, good job by Kim Kalunian of WPRI.
Right. Yeah.
Good question.
I think it was Mike McCurry who first put the Daily Briefing on TV, and he has said he regretted it ever since because it used to be a more informal exchange and everybody would get up to speed and they'd go on their way, and it's become a show. I think that I agree with everybody in that, in theory, this is a very good idea. I think that the White House press corps tends to ask about politics all the time. And you bring in local reporters from around the country and they ask about issues.
Yeah.
But when you bring in a clown like this Lars
yeah.
Larson
Really.
guy, it just makes a mockery of the whole thing. Commander Spicer! I mean, what
Commander-
the heck was that
And
all
that's, thinks
about?
that was that his title in the Navy when he did serve.
Oh,
don't
did he?
know.
Okay, well,
No, I
maybe
don't
it
know.
is his title,
I have no
but
idea,
it
but
isn't
it's still-
now.
No, that's my point. It's like commander.
No, that was inappropriate. So what I would like to see happen is, because we've referenced a couple of times about some of these fringe people, including this guy, who tend to be way, I don't even know if it's alt-right, wherever they are. There are highly respected conservative
Yes.
news outlets. Now, they should be saying, don't do this to us. Don't lump us in with these people. You know, if your point is that you felt that some of us were not elevated during other administrations, then raise us up. But don't do this kind of, this is crazy. They're sitting there and they have good questions to ask. And there are local reporters, to your point, that have good questions. But don't pander
you're
to
right.
these people who are doing nothing but just clowning, really.
Yeah, they really,
you know,
yeah.
and it's a disservice to everybody.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
like
I only
to see
took a
that.
little clip of that guy's question and actually went on for quite a while.
The problem is most respectable conservative outlets weren't with Trump during the campaign,
true.
at least not till the end.
And they're still not.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you know, but that gets back to Josh's point anyway, which is that, you know, don't have people on who support. That's not the point of
Yeah.
this. That's not what we're supposed to be doing.